Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today, a brand new rock star. He's a globally recognized marketer, operator, and speaker. He's the Chief Marketing Officer of Showcase IDX, Kurt Uhlir. Thanks so much for joining me, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So I want to dive right in because you've helped brands grow real businesses and obviously create real influence. So my question to you right away is, in a world where anybody seems to be considered an influencer, even people who probably aren't influencers, like everybody can be considered an influencer. How can somebody set themselves apart?
Being themselves and not trying to be somebody else. I happen to have a pretty big audience at this point, which is great, but it's like how I interact with that. I'm not Grant Cardone. I'm not Gary Vaynerchuk. I shouldn't try to be. Even if I had an audience that big, I'm not those people.
Right.
And so whether it's a real estate agent that's got 50 people that follow them on Instagram, and 3 of them are aunts and uncles, that's okay.
Yeah.
And so I think it is like people need to just be who they are.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I'm guilty of this sometimes, because you read a book or you get something from Gary V and you're like, all right, I'm not a brash guy from New Jersey. So people sniff that out. I think that's great advice. So as you've worked with teams of like all sizes and cultures, how has your leadership style evolved over time?
Yeah, I used to be that very hierarchical, asshole leader. There's no other way to say it. I say that because, like, when somebody told me, a mentor told me that, I went and asked 3 people, one of which was my mother, and all of them like cut me off to say, "Well, you've always been an asshole." I used to believe in that. I was that very high achieving person. So I believed that if one person cried in the team, that was them. If everybody cried in the team, it meant I dialed it up to 11, and I need to just bring it back to 10 or 9 for them. There was a wake of destruction to the point I made dozens of people millionaires that still won't talk to me today, even having gone back. And so very different approach than where I'm at now, and actually found much more success with more of an approach of high achieving servant leadership.
Yeah, that's it. It is tough sometimes, I think, when you're a type A to turn that off and to do that service. And you talk about the servant leadership, and you actually high achieving servant leadership, which I really like, that put that together, right? So why is that important, and why is it becoming the best way to scale companies of all sizes?
Yeah, I think way too often people look at they look at the short term. And so, like, even if I could do every job that that people work for me better, I can't do that better repeatedly. And so I need those people to grow themselves, and they want to grow. I should only be hiring people that are wanting to grow and be their best selves. And so from a place of saying, look, my job is actually to remove the blockers from my team, to help them become better in their strengths. That makes our collective efforts that much better. And it is combining those things, because I think most people approach servant leadership from a faith perspective, or because they just think it's morally right. And I'm okay with that. I'm a strong Jesus follower. Like, that's, and I fail at that every day. But that's most of the books, is they take it from one of those approaches, as opposed to, like, the only really book that I know that's really kind of takes this approach is Cheryl Bachelder's Dare to Serve, where she's like, look, this is how you transform public companies that are failing to ones that are immaculately successful. And so, like, I think there's a great moral and faith reason for it. But frankly, in my experience, if you want to grow real companies, whether small or big, like, servant leadership is by far the best way to kind of do that.
Well, and I think it helps you attract great talent too, right? Because you alluded to this in the past, how you've evolved over time. I mean, people, they might work for you for a short period of time, but they're not going to create a lifetime around it, I think, most of the time. Is that fair?
That's fair. And it's also, I'm successful now, not just because of the efforts that I've done this week or this quarter or this year, but, like, I have people that I've worked with, chosen to not hire, people that I've fired, people I've chosen to not sell to a decade ago that will take my call now because of how we interacted with them. And so, like, look, if you have salespeople on your team, they need to be selling. But at the end of the day, do you want to hire the person that'll get the deal at all costs? Or do you want the person that has 10 years of experience, where they've been hitting their numbers, but they could also give you 10 customers or 10 people that they worked with where they told them to not buy their products. That's who I want to hire, because they can also call people that they didn't sell to in the past and sell them my product today.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I always, because I think those are the moments that you build credibility with those prospects and customers, when you're truly trying to serve them, like you said. So like, if another question for you is, if you had to give someone wanting to grow their business one piece of advice, what would that be?
We always have those inflection points that we're trying to get over in our business. And so for me, we need to be very aware of the word balance should be a verb and not the noun that people try to get to the Zen state in their business. At all times, I think they should be looking at to go, hey, what can I automate or take off of my plate? And at the other cases, hey, to grow, what's the unscalable things I should be doing and testing today to see if it works?
I think that's really good. Okay, if you're okay with it, I'm gonna ask you one more question that just occurred to me. So one of the things I know about you is that you work a lot in the real estate space. Accurate? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, so I talk a lot about niching down. How did you decide to focus on that niche, and how's that served you?
Well, I've only focused on a niche because frankly, that's the industry where I got hired into, it was 5 or 6 years ago. I'm very good at working in any niche at the time that I'm at the time. In real estate specifically, I think some of the best places where I've seen, especially because every agent is their own 1099, business to themselves. I've seen the most successful agents are people that are either currently hyper niched or that's how they grew. And I mean that to the point of, like, I know people like in mid-sized cities that says like they're doing crazy transactions and referrals because the only people they help are singles in like downtown Chicago buy high-rise condos. And they don't help anybody else. The only people that they help outside of that is somebody that they sold a condo to 8 years ago that's now married, moving to the suburbs, and now they're trying to sell their condo to somebody that was just like them in the past. Like that's a hyper niche. And like, I have tons of those examples in real estate, and it's actually a lot easier, I think, to find those examples in real estate than you can find for like somebody with a 20 truck electrical company.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, cool, man. This has been really fun. I appreciate you taking the time. Now, where can people find a little more about you?
Yeah, KurtUhlir.com is the best place to find me. From there, I'll kind of link you out to anywhere. If you want to know more about a personal life, it's going to send you to Instagram. You want to know more business, they'll take you to LinkedIn.
Love it. Love it. Well, cool, man. This has been really fun and high energy, and I appreciate that. We'll have to do it again sometime, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.